This is Galatians chapter 2 and verse 16. Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Yahawashi HaMashiach, even we have believed in Yahawashi HaMashiach, that we might be justified by the faith of Hamashiach, and not by the works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. Call Halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi Ba'ashem HaKakodash Brakatha Yahweh Brakatha Yahawashi. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. And mighty shalom to the hopeful elect in the same spirit, Lord, that y'all all can continue to endure and be sincere. Shalom to the Akwat Yom, believers of this faith and this truth. Lord willing, that you continue to pursue your lot, which is being a loving and silent and virtuous wife. Lord willing, the Most have mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in the faith. The title of this quick lesson, or even this exhortation, Lord willing, it can encourage you, motivate you. This is a Yahawashi conversation. Faith is the key. I know you hear this a lot of times, but you got to keep hearing it until some of these prophecies that is going to come to pass. Your faith will be tested. You got to always think of Job. You know, it doesn't matter how good, how terrible your life is. If you're coming in this thing, you're coming in this thing, or you are in this thing, and you're telling yourself you believe in Yahweh Shem Yahawashi, your faith is going to come with a test, right? Your faith is going to come with the test. I'm going to share my screen, and Lord willing, the few precepts that we bring out, Lord willing, this is edifying and straight to the point. Again, I am not here to make you believe in what is actually being said. I'm here to teach you, and Lord willing, by faith, you believe, because faith comes by hearing the word. And we're going to deal with scriptures. Some scriptures I might not bring on the screen, and I might just read them behind the scenes, or I might quote them. But for you on the other side as a student, you want to research what is being brought out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this verse real quick. Go to Acts, the 17th chapter, dealing with the Berea, the people of Berea. And when a time where Paul was teaching his ministry, that the Lord had him go out and teach. So Paul at Berea, verse 10, it says, and the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming thither went to the synagogue of the Jews, and these were more noble than those in Thessalonica. In that time they received the word with all readiness of mind. Right, so when the word is coming out, you have to have a ready mind. You have to have ready, you're going to learn. You might be an hour lesson, it might be a 30-minute, it might be a 20-minute lesson. If you can't watch the whole thing, put it aside and save it, and then get back to it. You know, finish the video so you can get the whole conclusion of the matter and apply it within your life. You know, it says, and search the scriptures daily whether those things were true. And as a student or a believer, you want to hear somebody teach, and you want to have a memory, write it down, put it in your phone so that you can research those scriptures and see if it was so, right? If it was really making sense when you're reading, those precepts or those things, that the sense that the teacher was given is going to come to mind. But if you don't agree with it, you're gonna be going against it, right? And it is what it is. This is not for everybody. And even for me, I have to make sure that I'm coming with you with the right information. Me as a teacher, I have to be a student too, to get guided to make sure I'm teaching the same song and not deferring the sheep somewhere else. So have a ready mind to hear the conversation of Yahawashi, that faith is key. And then if it is aligned with you, and this is the truth, because it has to be taught 100% truth, You apply this within your life and build yourself in faith. What we're about to go in does not mean do not do the law. You want to establish it, right? Let me just go to this and then we'll get into the lesson. Romans, the 3rd chapter, and I believe the 31st verse. This is Romans chapter 3, verse 31. Do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid. Yeah, we established the law. So just because we're talking about faith does not mean you do not establish the law. You know, it's like you put in a decree in your house, you establish that decree to make sure people are following the decree in the house. So we're going to establish the law that is given to us in the first 5 books of the Bible, and we're going to apply it. Some of them we're not going to be able to fully do, but we're going to apply it. But it all stems with faith, because none of us is going to establish any law if we don't believe that this is so from the Lord, right? So now let's get into the point, because we went to Galatians, starting at Galatians chapter 2, verse 16 to 17, that we're justified by faith. We're not justified by the works of the law, right? That we can boast in the flesh or boast in our own will that we did it, right? We boast in Yahawashi, and it all stems from faith. You know, you can't be a teacher if you don't believe in these words. It all stems with faith. So let's go to Galatians. You can read this in the KJV. Just trying to make it more plain for you guys. In Galatians, the 3rd chapter, this is the NLT, New Living Translation. And I'm going to only read verse 1 to 6. It says, "O foolish Galatians, who has cast evil spell on you, for the meaning of Yahawashi HaMashiach's death was made as clear as if you had seen a picture of his death on the cross. Let me ask you this one question. Did you receive the Rakah Kodash by obeying the law of Moses?" This is a question. Of course not. You received the Spirit because you believed the message you heard about Hamashiach. When you go to Acts, the 2nd chapter, the apostles was given or was filled with the Rakah Kodash and start speaking multiple languages. And Yahawashi even said that he was going to send the Comforter unto them, right? And when we go into St. John 7, verse 37 to 39, when it says, out of your belly shall flow ever living water, he was actually speaking of the Spirit, because that Spirit is going to flow wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, which is spiritually talking about water. Okay, verse 3. How foolish can you be? After starting your Christian lives in the Spirit, why are you now trying to become perfect by your own human effort? Right? So now, what is a true Christian? A follower of Yahawashi. That's what a true Christian is. A follower, a believer of Hamashiach Yahawashi, who the world inwardly calls Jesus. So why would we try to make ourselves perfect by our own efforts? Right? As an Israelite, you must know that the law is your inheritance, it's your heirloom, which is given from descendant to descendant. Going back into the scriptures, these laws was only for the children of Israel, natural, and you apply them in your household step by step. And we rehearse these things. It says, have you experienced so much for nothing? Surely it was not in vain, was it? I ask you again, does God give you the Rakah Kodash and work miracles among you because you obey the law? Of course not. It is because you believe the message you heard about Hamashiach, right? This is why we receive the Rakah Kodash, because we believe in Hamashiach. When you come in this thing, somebody telling you his name, not Jesus, and then they're giving you the understanding, bringing you back, a person that believes in the Lord want to learn. They want to know the mysteries. They want to know the secrets. Yahawashi is that secret. The Rakah Kodash is that secret. You know, in verse 6, it says, in the same way, Abraham believed God, and God counted him as righteous because of his faith. So this is the point where I really came here. Everything stems back to Abraham. So when we go to Genesis, the 12th chapter, we're just going to show the example that he was actually called. And then I believe in Genesis, the 15th chapter, the Lord had renewed his covenant through Abraham. right? So let me see if what part do I want to start? Let me look at my physical. I believe we're going to start from verse 1. So this is Genesis, the 12th chapter. Yeah, we're going to start at verse 1 because this deals with him being called. It says, Now Yahweh said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house into a land that I will show thee. Now, just for time's sake, when you go even further in the history of Abraham, right, you could see that Abraham's father, right, was serving other gods. He was serving other gods because he was living in the land of Ur, I believe, right? Actually, let me quote that. I want to quote that scripture correctly. Yes, so let's go to this real quick, and I'm going to come back. Let's go to Joshua 24:2. So you have to know the Bible is records, it's history. In Romans 15:4, these things that were written was written for our learning. Faith was always there, but it's morally talking about in the time of Yahawashi all the way till now. We're speaking more about faith. This is Joshua chapter 24, verse 2. And it says, And Joshua said unto all the people, Thus saith Yahweh God of Israel, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in the old time. Right? What is that? That is before the time of Abraham, the time of Noah, during that flood. Even Terah, the father of Abraham, the father of Nachor, and they served other gods. Right? Abraham's father was not serving the one true power, Yahawashi Yahawashi. He was serving a different God, a different deity. Let me see. I don't know if this is the one I wanted, though. I'm going to read it. This is Genesis 31, verse 19. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's, right? And these are the same people, which is, related to Jacob, related to Abraham in another sense. Those is not Israelites, but they come from Shem too. It says, Now, though thou wouldest need to be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore thou hast stolen my gods. So she was longing, Rachel, through the spirit, because she was raised under her father. So she was following the same suit. Because why would she steal these images if she fully did not believe in, if she fully believed in the Lord? It says, And with whosoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live. For our brethren our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee, for Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their fathers, judge betwixt us, and Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. Let's see, Joshua 24:15. This goes back into the Bible being records, history. It says, If it seem evil unto you to serve Yahweh, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, the ones that were of the land of Israel at that time, Canaanites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. And Abraham got picked out of his father's house, and he actually was serving the Lord. That goes back to Jeremiah 17, verse 10. The Lord searched the heart. He tries the rein to give every man according to his ways. So the Lord seen in Abraham's heart that he was going to believe, that he was going to have faith, which Abraham did believe, because he was willing to give up his son Isaac because the Lord asked him. That's faith right there in his own. Like, you know what, the Lord can give me my raise my son again, right? You got other examples. Yeah, we got other ones, but I mean, I believe you got the gist of this, right? So let's go back to Genesis 12. So Abraham, father Tahar, was serving other gods. By faith, the Lord chose him, right? St. John 15:16, I have chosen you. We didn't choose him. So the Lord is showing us the example how he chooses. He's looking in the heart, right? So again, Genesis 12:1. Now Yahweh had said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindreds and from thy father's house into a land that I will show thee. And I will make thee a great nation. I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be blessed. Thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curse thee. And in thee shall all flames of the earth be blessed. And I'd even continue with the children of Israel. Whoever bless us is going to be blessed, and whoever curse us is going to be cursed. Where is the record of these nations blessing us? Most cases, a lot of them are going to be hit with a curse, especially when you look at Moab, where their king was trying to put a curse on us. But the Lord switched it and became a blessing. It says, so Abraham departed as Yahweh had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Right? When you go to Job 33:14, the Lord speaketh once, speaketh twice, but man perceiveth not. Abraham perceived, he heard the Lord speaking to him, and he left. He took his wife with him. When you go to verse 4 down to 9, this goes into Abraham entering into the city of Canaan. And when you go into 10 to 15, this is going into Abraham deception when he went into the land of Egypt, right? So when you go to the chapter 13, verse 14, this shows the Lord renews his covenant. So Genesis 13, verse 14, and Yahweh said to Abraham, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thy eyes and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. The Lord is establishing what he is going to give the descendants of Abraham, right? This land that he is in. And throughout, all the way from Adam, all the way to Noah, all the way to Abraham, the Lord was already having it chosen near that land. And Abraham fully getting this land and seeing what his descendants are going to get, right? This is a record. Remember, when you commit a crime, that record follows you. This is a biblical, spiritual record that was already established in the heavens, given to us about what's going to happen on this earth. So none of us can change. None of us can add on to it. It says, and I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, for that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall the seed also be numbered. He's not speaking about all nations. He's not speaking about nations that spiritually cleave into Israel. He is specifically speaking about one nation that is going to be the dust of the earth, right? His descendants by faith, descendants that are part of the chosen, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, regardless if you accept it or not. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abraham removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto Yahweh. Right, and then you keep going. The 14th chapter, he meet Melchizedek. Right, then we go to Genesis 15. He is given the promise of the heir from verse 4 to 6. And then now, let's go to Genesis, the 15th chapter, in verse 7. So the covenant is already established, because then later on, when you go into 1 Kings, the 16th chapter, the end result is the everlasting covenant. And we get that covenant through Yahawashi, right? So the Lord, Isaiah 46:10, The Lord is already establishing the end, declaring the end from the beginning. So when we go back to Galatians, faith was always the key because it was always around. Faith was always around, right? We just needed Yahawashi to come into play, right? So let's go to this Isaiah, right? Because when we even speak about Yahawashi, we speak about when people say, "Oh, you brothers is a faith-based camp. All you talk about is Yahawashi. We're the law." We talk about, go watch our videos. But the main thing is faith. The number one thing, what did Israel do? Yes, they served other gods. But if you serve other gods, you're losing faith. You're losing patience in Yahweh B'Shem Yahawashi, right? We're not justified by the law, which is your own flesh, your own, oh, look what I did. No, we're supposed to boast in the Lord. You doing, oh, I did this law. I do 463. You get to boast on what you have done. But through your faith, somebody's going to know your works, especially by you teaching, especially by you applying the law. People are going to know your works through your faith. They're going to see your works. They're going to see your faith through your works. So Isaiah 46:10, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times to the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. This is the Lord's pleasure for us to boast in Yahweh B'Shem Yahawashi, because everything of this world hung on the cross. Now you can't say everything of this world hung on the law. The law is to separate what you can do, what you can't do, what you can't eat, and what you can't eat. It is your culture. This is your religion, which you're supposed to follow while being on this earth. And then there's other things outside of that, which we will look and consist. Faith is the key. You're believing in a God and a Savior that you cannot see right now. You cannot go outside and see angels in a chariot, hovering the air, hovering around your house, or in space. You can't. Now we can see chariots from the distance, but you can't physically see them. You can't see their power. You don't look, they can go invisible. You can't even see through the spirit Jacob's ladder, where the angels is going up and the angels coming down. But by faith, you believe it because it said in the scriptures. Faith is the key. When you die, a lot of us saying when we die, our spirit go to the Heavenly Father and our flesh decays. You have to believe that is true. If you never died and came back to tell the story, you don't know shit. But by faith, because what thus saith the Lord, you know when a person dies, that spirit goes to the Father and the flesh down into the earth. And then your spirit just comes back as a rotation. That is faith. Faith is the key. Yahawashi oversees the law. Oversee means he is the authority. He is the governor. The law is not a physical governor because the law is established in Yahawashi because he is the word. And ain't the law part of the word? So the law is Yahawashi. Faith is the key. So we read that Isaiah. So now let's go to verse 7 in Genesis 15. He says, and he said unto him, I am Yahweh that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit. Why did he bring him out of Ur? Because his fathers and his kindreds was not serving the one true God. When you read it, only he brought Abraham and his wife and his possessions out. Father cut all them stayed except for Lot. Because Lot was even a righteous man. Did he not get saved out of the Sodom and Gomorrah? Through the Spirit, they're part of that chosen bloodline. You have to look at the example. The Lord called Abraham and Lot came with him. The Lord is calling the elect. That's how you know the Lord is only dealing with the elect all the way from our past. Dealing with Adam. Did he not? Why is only talking about Adam getting the breath of the life? The breath of life, and then extended to the Adamites. But it was only Adam. Adam was called, and then the Lord had given him Eve. That is being called, right? St. John 15:16. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you that ye should go and bring forth fruit, that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever ye shall ask of the Father in my name, he may give it. Through the Spirit, Abraham planted fruit. His descendants which is really the elect, are going to be a reflection of him by faith. By faith, they're going to come in this thing, but it was because they were chosen, because their heart, the Lord knew that they would have faith. David had courage. Joshua said, have courage. Ones of faith are going to have courage. They're going to be persistent. They're going to be patient in the Lord. It's all by faith, is the measure of faith, right? Faith is measuring the cost. You know what? Let me see if I can see something real quick. Hebrews. Let's see if we can find something in here, because this whole chapter goes into faith, right? But we have to seek it through, right? So I want to go to the point, different points dealing with Abraham. Let's look at this one. Hebrews 11, verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, we just read that in Genesis 12. He was called from out of his father, cousin, and all of them. Hey, yo, come, I'm going to need you to go over here. I want to show you something. Abraham was called, and through the Spirit, Lot was too, because he was with him. Sarah, as the elect lady, she was called too, because she was called to be Abraham's wife, right? By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should, after receive for inheritance, be obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whether he went. So right there, that was faith obeying. He went to a place that he didn't even know. That is faith. You coming in this truth and not even knowing. And you like, man, how I'm gonna learn? I'm gonna read, but I'm gonna need somebody to guide me. So now we're putting we're putting faith on these inventions that the Lord put on Esau to make for us to be able to hear the men of the Lord on these videos, or you go into the highways and byways and you hearing the men of the Lord teach. You're having faith in these men that saying they're the men of the Lord. You're doing with Berea, what I said earlier, having a readiness mind, hearing the word, searching scriptures daily, seeing what that person said was actually in the scriptures. As soon as you like, wait, hold on, this is making sense, you're going to keep doing it. You're going to keep doing it. Abraham, he kept obeying the Lord. Oh, you want me to move here? You want me to move here? This is the example of faith. He went somewhere he don't even know, right? That's like you going out of town, you went to a place you never went, but you have faith nobody gonna kidnap you, such and such and such. That's a worldly example. But a spiritual is example when the Lord is truly calling you. Yo, I need you to come here. And this man leave and obey the Lord. He went out not knowing whether he went. He did the same thing as the disciples did when they left their father, Peter, the sons of Zebedee. They left their job. They left their father, Matthew. He left from being a tax collector to follow Yahawashi. Those are real children of Abraham. Again, the title of this is a Yahawashi conversation. Faith is a key. You got to believe that Yahawashi came down from the right hand of the Father. He was in his glory, and he made himself lesser than an angel in the heavens. Made himself like a human, had himself in captivity in the hands of the Romans, like you and me. And he was a bum, just like you and me, of the faith. He didn't have his mind on riches and let me get this, oh, let me get a girl. His mind was only focused on doing the will of his Father. We go to St. John, the 4th chapter, and I'm going to read this on my side so we can keep the screen the way it is. You can hear the pages in the back. This is St. John, the 4th chapter, verse 34. Yahawashi saith unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work. So Yahawashi was showing us we are here to do the Father's will. Abraham showed you he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out not knowing whether he went. How would he know about this land if he didn't go and follow the Lord's will? The Lord's will was telling him, yo, come out from your father and your kindreds, leave your country. That's leaving it all behind. Leaving it all behind. That's another example. You can't take this when the Lord calling you, when you go in the spirit world, you can't take shit here with you. What did he tell the disciples when they go in Luke, the 10th chapter? Go out to these places and teach the word, but don't take no purse. Don't take a staff. Don't take no money. Don't take an extra garment or clothes with you. Just take what you got. And whoever receive you, you go into them. If they don't receive you, kick the dust off your feet. When you go, that's their fate. All we need is Yahawashi. Verse 9. By faith he sojourned in the land of promise. Only faith drew him to sojourn or stay in a land that he don't know of, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac in tents, in Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. Right? They were heirs, which those were really his children. Right? Isaac and Jacob. Even though Isaac had other sons, Abraham had other sons. Isaac had Esau, the ones that were heirs to him. Right? Let's look up the word heir. Let's look up the word heir again. This is going into a Yahawashi conversation. Faith is the key. Faith always been there. Faith is the importance of this whole walk. Wait, why am I not getting that word? Oh, there we go. Salaki family. So G4789. Sukore namas, a co-heir, participant in common or fellow joint heir, heir together, heir with, right? So we're joint heirs together. One who obtains something assigned to himself with others, a joint participant. Now I know we can go to Handy Google or to etymology.com and we can type so heir meaning a person legally entitled to the property or rank of another on the person's death, right? And usually that's going to go to, like when we look at your firstborn, the other one, the second, the third, just like a kingdom, an heir, a successor, heirs next in line, right? And if you're not from that chosen bloodline, the Lord has called, you're not an heir. Isaac was not called an heir after Abraham because the Lord already knew the heart of Ishmael, that he wasn't going to go the direction. And Ishmael is a descendant from Shem. So he's a Hebrew too. He is just not going to consist of the bloodline that pertains into the oath, the covenant, the everlasting covenant going into the law. And those laws was only given to that chosen bloodline from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob into the 12 tribes. And whatever people that is in your tent, you had to establish the law of the Lord, right? If a servant that's not an Israelite and he was a male, he had to get circumcised because he's under you. And everybody has to serve the Lord because guess what? Somebody eventually is going to fall away from Yahawashi. How does that make sense? You follow the Lord, and when we get in the kingdom, we're going to establish all nations to follow the Lord. So make it make sense. If you have a servant, they had to follow your customs. Other meanings: one who receives property from an ancestor. So they had to be related. One who is entitled to inherit property was her father's sole heir, right? You have to be your father's sole heir to get that property, or to be a firstborn. A man that get two wives, one he loves, one he hate. The one he hate is the firstborn. That is an heir because it came from his McNuggets, but it really just goes by the blood. And multiple nations came out of a lot of our fathers. But look how Jacob had his sons, and those was the patriarchs of the 12 tribes. The Dinah was not considered a Hebrew Israelite. She was a Hebrew. She was a descendant from Jacob, but consist of the 12 patriarchs, she don't carry the seed. But through the Spirit, she would be one of them children that come from that bloodline. She's not another nation because she is whatever her father is. But then you go into other examples where the Lord had other nations come out the loins of Adam, right? Different nations came out the loins of Noah's sons, right? Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And that really consists of all the nations on the earth. And you break them down in three categories: the sons of God, which is the chosen bloodline; the sons of man, which are the other nations, the other heathens outside of Esau; and the sons of the wicked, which is Esau, right? So now that we got that, let's go back to where we was at in Hebrews, and then we're going to slowly close. It's like so much you can bring out when it consists of Yahawashi or faith. So verse 10, it says, "For he looked for a city which have foundation, whose builder and maker is God. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age." Right? And we're saved by childbirth, let alone she was given one of those children that were called, which is Isaac, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one in him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in a multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. And it's talking about Israel. In the time that we're in now, 2025, Israel had multiplied. We even multiply in other nations. Jake is planting their seed in Moab, and they might think they Moab. Israel is planting their seed in Ghana, Kenya, and they think that they're the Kenite. They might not think they're Israelite, and they're planting their seed, and you'll be like, "Oh man, that's a whole Hamite." And in most cases, that is an Israelite. You got some of Jake laying their seed in Italy, Rome, right? Alaska. We're planting our seed amongst many nations, but that accumulates Israel being the dust of the earth, right? Verse 13, these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them far off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. What is a pilgrim? A traveler searching for a holy land. And Abraham had that holy land, but they didn't receive the promises, because those promises were for the descendants of Abraham, which goes into the descendants of Jacob. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is, in heavenly, wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. And that city, starting with the people, is going to be the elect, descending down, and then when we get the hands of the nation and put order in the earth, they're going to be our slave for that beautiful beginning 1,000 years. Everything is built, established, and then the nations are going to go into their promised land that was given to them in the time of Genesis, and Esau is going to be destroyed, Obadiah 1:18. But by faith, you're going to be drawn into the bosom of the Lord, which is truly the truth. This truth is in the bosom of the Lord. So back to Genesis 15, verse 8. And he said, Yahweh power, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, take me a heifer, and of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these things and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece laid each piece one against another, but the bird divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcass, Abraham drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and lo, in horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abraham, know of a certainty that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs. So the Lord is speaking to Abraham about future event, about his descendants that's not here yet. This is another indicator. Why do we go back to the Old Testament to know these records? When you just talk about scriptures, you're talking about records, testimonies, witness records of what people saw, what people heard, or what the Lord told them to write, the things that are going to happen. This is only pertaining with Israel, because Israel, you only had prophets that the Lord raised up to teach you these words. The Lord raised up scribes to write these things, right? Lord raised up certain people that were going to play a very important part for good or for bad. Judas, he plays a big part, and he's a memorial, and he's talked about all the time. Abraham talked about all the time. Isaac talked about all the time. The 12 tribes talked about all the time. The major and minor prophets talked about all the time. Paul, he's talked about all the time. Peter talked about all the time. Good and bad. These are records, right? And we were in a stranger in the land of Egypt. This is going to follow these people throughout the whole scriptures that they always constantly relate to. It says, and shall serve them and shall afflict them 400 years. Totally, it was 430. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. And after shall they come out with great substance, because the Lord is going to bless us with their things. And it says, and thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. And it's just talking about Abraham. Right? And you can keep on reading down to verse 21, because now it's talking about the people of the land. Right? And when you go to 16, it deals with Hagar is given to Abraham because Sarah wasn't able to give a child. Right? So when we go to Genesis 17, again, this all goes back to faith is being key. Because to get to Yahawashi, what he has done for us, it opens up that door for us to have our last chance. This is your last chance. If you're not getting this now, it's over. Your lot is to be destroyed. When you go to 2 Corinthians, right, the part of the gospel is not just Matthew all the way to John. The gospel is even part of the things that's in the law, in the Psalms, and in the prophets to accumulate the good news. The things that are going to be established, because a lot of these things are secrets, right? This is a secret. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 3. I just want to go to this, Lord willing. 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 3 in the NLT, it says, if the good news we preach is hidden behind a veil, it is hidden only from people who are perishing. So if you can't get this whole gospel, this mystery, it is hidden from you by Yahawashi. And a lot of our people are going to perish because they did not was given the mercy and compassion on his side to have the truth given. You wasn't picked. You wasn't chosen like Abraham. You wasn't chosen like the ones that was chosen in this ministry. The women that had a position like Susanna, right? Like a Sarai, a Rachel, right? A Rebecca, right? A Judith, the ones that Esther, the women that's talked about, Mary Magdalene, Tabitha, those women that are spoken about is the example of the elect lady that actually believe. You don't hear them going into pride. They believed, right? They believed in the order. You got Susanna that did not want to lay with somebody just because they go either tell or something, and she knew she had a husband. And even not having a husband, she knew the Lord don't want no woman, no Israelite woman hopping around. She feared the Lord, right? So now that we just seen that, if you don't get this gospel, what pertains from Abraham, Isaac to Jacob, the 12 tribes going all the way to David, going to Solomon, the reincarnation going all the way to Yahawashi, you're not in this thing, because faith is a key. Genesis 17:1, it says, when Abraham was 90 years old and 9, Yahweh appeared unto Abraham and said unto him, I am the mighty power. walk before me and be thou perfect, right? He had to be perfect. And I will make thy covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abraham fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Because technically, when we break this down, he's truly, when we're only dealing with the chosen bloodline, the 12 tribes, especially on this side, they're technically 12 nations. They're 12 tribes, but they're technically 12 nations. Then, in another sense, Israel is scattered 4 corners of the earth. So he's going to be a father to many nations, right? Everybody don't descend from Abraham. Because when you go to Abraham, he comes later on. Like when you look at the descendants, the line of Shem in Genesis, the 10th chapter, you got people that descend from different people, right? When you go into Sarag, he lived after he begot Nahar 200 years and begot sons and daughters. In Nahar, he begot Terah. So everybody descend from somebody, but even those ones that might not lead unto Abraham, right? Because there's multiple Shems. But Abraham is the father of many nations. Yes, he had Ishmael and he had them. He's a father of them. Anybody that comes out of Abraham, he's a father of. Now, say if one of Abraham's brothers or cousins, he's making descendants. They're not part of that Abraham seed line under him. But when we really look at it as what is going into, he's going to be a father of many nations when it goes into his descendants, the 12 tribes of Israel. And when we go to James, is it James we want? James 1. This whole letter is to the scattered Israelites. It says, this letter is from James, a slave of God and of the Lord, Yahawashi Mashiach. I am writing to the 12 tribes, Jewish believers scattered abroad, greetings. There ain't no such thing as Jewish. It's just because this is in Greek, they want to speak that term Jewish. Shalaki. Let me read it in the KJV. It says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Yahawashi Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. So this whole letter, testing your faith. How is this? Why would I be reading this to break this down to an African, to a Muslim, to an Edomite? When this is talking about, this letter is only to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. In these 12 tribes, they can be in this nation, and men are planting their seeds. Abraham is a father of many nations, right? So then eventually Abraham's name is changed. And this goes all the way back to what he did with Israel. Right. So now, before we hop back to Yahawashi, let's go to Chronicles, the 16th chapter. Before we go into Yahawashi, because everything stemmed by faith. If you're hearing everything, and we go into the for him to give us everlasting life, you have to understand the Lord was setting us up for the end times from the beginning. Every order from Adam, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Lord was already setting. We read it in Isaiah 46:10. The end is declared from the beginning. So the Lord was already setting us up for this great deliverance. Right? So when you go down to 1 Chronicles 16:15, it says, and be ye mindful always of this covenant, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations, even of the covenant which he made with Abraham and of the oath unto Isaac, and have confirmed the same to Jacob for a law and to Israel for an everlasting covenant. Right here, even if I'm a debate a Christian and they can't get this one verse, Why would I take them somewhere else? Now, unless they might understand somewhere else, hey, that's all Yahawashi Yahawashi. But we can't make this about any other nation if the everlasting covenant ends with Israel. So you have to know if everlasting just in itself is going to come with Yahawashi. Salvation is going to come with Yahawashi, right? And when you look at verse 18, it says, saying unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance. What did the Lord do with Abraham and Lot? He made them separate because their inheritance that they had was too much, that they couldn't live in the same coast or live directly near each other. So the Lord had one in Sodom and Abraham was in Canaan, right? So if all these nations can be Israelites and all that other stuff, it truly wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't make sense. There wouldn't be enough room. Now I'm trying to look for something to see if I find it. I believe it is in Luke, the 2nd chapter. Let me just slide through this real quick. See if this is the one that confers a teacher. Honor gives thanks and present the aid to Okay, so we're gonna go to Luke real quick. Because now we're about to slide to Yahawashi. Let's slide to Yahawashi and see what we can find, because everything leads us to Yahawashi. So let's deal with this. This actually lines with 2nd Ezra, the 7th chapter, verse 28. So we're going to drop down to verse 8. Luke chapter 2, verse 8. It says, and there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of Yahweh Shemashai came upon them, and the glory of Yahweh Shemashai shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings, good reports of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Hamashiach, which means anointed of the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddled clothes, lying in a manger. Right? We can go to Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter, where all babies are swaddled. Right? He was in a manger, and suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts praising God, saying, glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill towards men. And that was goodwill towards men because of Yahawashi. And through for all nations, Yahawashi is the sign of real peace on the earth. So all nations are going to be able to live at peace, but actually be under righteousness, because Yahawashi is going to make that decree where we're going to have to establish the law and order of Yahweh Shemashai. Under Yahawashi, we are going to be the welfare, right, of the world. We're going to be that righteous government where people lean on and try to live. And every nation is going to be playing their role. It says, and it came to pass as the angel were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said, and this goes back to Jacob having a dream of angels, Jacob's ladder, angels coming and descending and descending on the earth and going up to heaven. So this angel came from heaven and then left and went back. It says, as the angel were gone away from them into heaven, so it's descending up to heaven, the shepherds said one to another, let us now go even unto Bethlehem and see this thing which is come to pass, which Yahweh Shemashai had made known unto us. This was a secret. And they came with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told them concerning this child. And when we go into Isaiah, it was already prophesied. It don't say this woman ain't gonna have no sex. She was a virgin, a young damsel woman, or a woman of marriageable age. That's it. She was a woman of marriageable age, and that was her moment to have the son of Yahawashi, right? And truly, she wasn't going to have that child if the spirit wasn't dealing with her, right? It says, And all they that heard it wonder at those things which were told them by the shepherds. And Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen as it was told unto them. Right? And this goes with Second Ezra, the 7th chapter. They praise, they glorify the Lord. Verse 21. And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcision of the child, his name was called Yahawashi, which was so named of the angel. So this angel was not speaking English or Latin. He came with the actual ancient tongue, Hebrew, before he was conceived in the womb. Oh, how you know that? Let's see when Yahawashi spoke to Peter, he spoke to him in the native tongue, which was Hebrew. He says, and when the days of their purification according to the law of Moses was accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. As it was written in the law of the Lord, every male that openeth the womb shall be called holy to the Lord, especially firstborn, and to offer a sacrifice according to that which is said in the law of Yahawashi, a pair of turtle doves and 2 young pigeons. And behold, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon, and the same man was just and devout, waiting for the consolation of Israel. And the Rakakwadash was upon him. So this man had a spirit way before the Lord went up to. This is how you know faith was here. The Rakakwadash was here. Just certain things wasn't taught on a certain level. It says it was revealed unto him by the Rakakwadash that he should not see death before he had seen the Lord's Hamashiach. Before he seen the anointed, he was not going to taste death. And he came by the Spirit into the temple. So the Spirit moved him to go to the temple. This is how you know your days are orchestrated, right? It says, and when the parents brought in the child Yahawashi to do for him after the custom of the law, this is how you know Yahawashi was already raised in the law. So everybody was doing the law at that time. Even when Yahawashi raised up, before and after, Yahawashi never taught anybody not to teach the law, but he wanted people to understand you're justified by faith. Now that Yahawashi here, we can't just go off of our own works on this thing because we fucked up already. If we could have did it, we would never need Yahawashi. But the lamb and the goats could not cover us like Yahawashi. That should be plain for you. But that does not mean let me not do my customs. Let me not do what is part of my heritage. The law is part of your heritage. This is your religion. This is your customs. It says, then took he him up in his arms and blessed God and said, Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace, according to thy word, for my eyes have seen thy salvation. What is salvation? Salvation is deliverance. He was talking about Yahawashi because Yahawashi is the one that is going to deliver us. So Tedious, it can mean defender or by implication defense, salvation. But Yahawashi is the defender if he's going to deliver us. That brings salvation, saving, bringing salvation. He who embodies this salvation or through whom God is about to achieve it, the hope of future salvation, saving. Matthew 1 and 21. His name will be called Yahawashi, and he shall save his people from sin. He's going to bring salvation. He's going to bring deliverance, right? And all we got to do, we can get multiple understandings of so the word for salvation, lifetime preservation, right? But it just said observation or deliverance from harm, ruin, or loss. And this is what the children of Israel, salvation doesn't just consist of harm. It doesn't only consist of ruin or loss, right? We even get in, which would still go into these words, harm, ruin, and loss. We're harmed in this flesh. We're weak in this flesh. So we're getting saved from that, right? That ruin is the sin. We're going to have victory over sin, right? We're gonna from harm against physical oppressors. You know, you got more deliverance from sin and its consequences. So when Yahawashi came, we don't have the consequences of getting stoned right away, but you still have consequences in the end. If you are the 2/3, which was already established in you because your wicked ass heart, your consequences is getting the nuke. So you were created to, your life was prolonged just to fucking get nuked. Believed by Christians to be brought about by faith in Yahawashi. And that's what it is. And Yahawashi physically going to come and deliver us, which is compared to saving and help. All praises to Yahweh Shem Yahawashi by Shem Kakodash. Lord willing, we are of that number. So that man, let's keep reading, and then we're going to close. So verse 31, it says, which thou hast prepared before the face of all people, a light to lighten the Gentile Israelites. How can you lighten the other nations before the Israelites that been constantly backsliding and rebelling against Yahweh Shem Yahawashi? The Lord is first dealing with the nation of Israel. He's going to deal with the other nations when the kingdom is established. That is order. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 1 in the G&T. Wisdom puts everything in its rightful order. Before the Lord deals with you other nations, Israel has to get in their position on high under Yahawashi, starting with the elect government, the 144,000, then the other men, women, and children. Then when we're established, that 1,000-year reign, and then you're going to go into your own possession. You're going to be servants under the Israelites forever because that's what you were created for. There's nothing wrong with that because all kingdoms have servants, right? Verse 33, Joseph and his mother marvel at those. No, yeah. So verse 32, a light to the Gentiles in the glory of thy people, Israel. So there's going to be a glory to thy people. And of course, he is going to be a light to the other nations. But that's going to truly happen when we get the kingdom. Because right now, how can he be a light to the nations? And the nations is not submitting to the Israelites. The nations is not saying Yahweh Shem Yahawashi. They're not coming in sorrowness. You know, they're still terrapin, right? If these nations did, all these nations will really be trying to talk to Israelites right now. All nations. But right now, Yahawashi is not the light to the world. It's really about being the light to the Israelite Gentiles, the Israelites right now. We have to get this knowledge. We have to apply it. We have to get it in order. We have to believe. And when those things happen, prophecies fulfilled, then Yahawashi come. Then you're getting crowned. Next thing you know, we're sent back down. And then now the kingdom starts. And so in the glory of thy people Israel, and Joseph and Mary marvel at those things which were spoken of him. And Simeon blessed them and said unto Mary and his mother, behold, this child is set for the fall and the rising again of many in Israel, and for a sign which shall be spoken against. So in that time, we've seen a lot of people fall, which is the false teachers like the Pharisees, Sadducees, and some of the scribes, and so on and so on, and the rise again of many in Israel, which is the ones of faith. Then when you look at our time, the fall is just the same, which is going to really be the 2/3 in completion, and then the elect, starting with 144,000 men, and then the rest of the elect, the other men, women, and children. Those are the many that are going to rise just because of this sign, Yahawashi. And it's not the law, because Yahawashi is the example. We could not fit, we could not fulfill it because we were living in this veiled body, right? And that is mercy of the Lord. Yet a sword shall pierce through thy own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. Every mind is going to be revealed in that time. But everything that Yahawashi did was for this purpose, right? So, Lord willing, this was edifying. It's more that we can get into. But when we go back to the Galatians, where we was at, Galatians, 3rd chapter, I think the 6th verse, it says, faith brings righteousness. So in the KJV again, oh foolish Galatians, talking about Israelites in Galatia, who have bewitched you, that ye should not obey the truth. What is the truth? Yahawashi is the truth. The word is. Before those eyes, Yahawashi, Hamashiach, have been evidently set forth, crucified among you. This only would I learn of you. Receive ye the Spirit by the works of the law or by hearing of faith? We never, like, it wasn't taught to you that you was going to receive the Rakakwadash by the works of the law. You don't eat pork, you're going to get the Rakakwadash. Then they go right back into sin again? No. He says, are ye so foolish? Having begun in the spirit, are ye now made perfect by the flesh? Have ye suffered so many things in vain? If it be yet in vain, he therefore that ministereth to you the spirit in work of miracles among you, doeth he it by the works of the law or by the hearing of faith? So us speaking, ministering, teaching his word, is this by the law or by the spirit? When brothers get that ability to heal, is it going to be by the law or is it going to be by faith? Because when Jacob's trouble come, some of these elect men is going to be probably healing somebody's stab wound, healing somebody or something. We might be saying the name of Yahweh, but they might be healed. Is that going to be because of the law or is that going to be because of faith? Right? And it's really because of faith. Verse 6, even as Abraham believed God and it was counted to him for righteousness. So when we look at it all, you got to understand what Abraham has done. Knowing ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham. So when you speak of faith, don't only just speak of it as a word, explain it in good detail, going all the way from starting with Yahawashi all the way back to the old to get you back to where you're at. You know, our faith consists of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi and everything he has done. It all really consists of faith, right? The law is your custom, your religion. That's something natural that you should be looking back towards. But something that's hard for all of us is to put Hamashiach Yahawashi over all those things. And the more you put Yahweh Hashem Yahawashi first, he's going to guide you, because we know man's going to the Lord and you're going to do the things that's pleasing unto him to the best of your ability. So all praises to Yahweh Hashem Yahawashi, who does it all. I want to give him all praises, and I want to say the water Yahweh Hashem Yahawashi for allowing me and whoever watched this now or later that's getting edified, that Lord willing, that he can continue to increase us. So with that, call Allah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashi, Ba'ashem Kakadash, Brakata Yahweh, Brakata Yahawashi. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. Lord willing, that they can continue to endure and be sincere. And the mighty shalom to the hopeful elect who are scattered four corners of the earth. Lord willing, you continue in the same spirit to endure and be sincere. Shalom to the Akwat Yom, believers of his faith and his truth. Lord willing, that you continue to pursue your lot, being a loving and silent, virtuous wife. And Lord willing, the Most High have mercy on the other brothers and sisters not of faith. Shalom. Shalom.